can do, which I highly recommend if you're able to, if you go see the doctor and they say, I've got bad news for you, Jose. You're going to die in 3 days. What you do is you call Alcor and say, I'm coming to Scottsdale. I go, what? I'm going to Scottsdale now. Get ready. No, honestly, that's what you do. That's what Fred Chamberlain did. I co-founded. He had cancer in Florida, and it was tough for him to move. They kind of adjusted his medications until he kind of poked up a bit. We got him on the plane with some help. He came out, moved to the hospice in Arizona, right near Alcor, and he said, because there's no legal suicide law there right now, what you can do is to refuse food and water. That's perfectly legal. That's not much fun if you're conscious, but because he had cancer, they could load him up on morphine and he's totally unconscious. And they cannot make you take food or water. So he said, under no circumstances give me anything, just give me lots of morphine. And that's what he did. And it took, I was amazed actually, because I never thought you could last this long without any food or water. It lasted 6 days before his heart finally stopped. And towards the end, it's almost funny, and I've talked about this with Linda Chamberlain, Fred just didn't quite want to let go, or his body didn't. His breathing would stop for like almost a minute. You go, ready? And you take another breath, and I was on for several more hours, but finally gave up and we were able to start instantly. And we published the CT scans. Fred looks fantastic. Fred took good care of himself. Even though he had cancer, his vascular system was in good shape, so we were able to get excellent perfusion. So move to Scottsdale if you can, the hospice. We have a great relationship with one. There's no delay. It's really the way to go. So yeah, we can provide training. We can provide review days, ice baths. We don't have to reinvent everything. We've been through many generations of ice baths. Steve Craver's latest design is really, really excellent. It's light and strong. You can easily ship it. It actually was designed that you can fold it up, put it into a bag you can take on a plane with no extra baggage charges. I know someone's mentioning Nuno Martins. I saw his ice bath. It's a big monster. I'm not sure how he gets out of the building. I'm not sure if it'll come outside the door. But that's pretty heavy duty. So don't hesitate to contact us if we have things that you want to adopt. We will be happy to share most of those things. So that's pretty much it. I really want to work with national organizations and regional groups to improve response, to work on possibilities for storage and on collaboration. Alcor has more resources than anybody else, but we don't have much. We have $2 million a year in revenues, we have 149 patients, we have 8 or 9 staff, so we can't do everything, but we do everything we can to help. I think if we work together to build Cryonics in Europe, we can get it going, and who knows, this should be a better place than the US. The US is pretty religious, which shouldn't be a problem, but people think it is, so it is. This place is less religious, so let's try and get to 1 million people signed up in Europe in the next 10 years. Why not? Let's have a stretch goal. Let's get to 1 million people. I'd like to help you do that. Thank you. Any time for questions?
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know for a second.
The focus of your presentation, but also of a few presentations before, were pretty much on technical aspects related to that and preservation. When I think cryonics, what worries me more is the perspective that the preservation, the storage should last hundreds of years, virtually thousands of years, with the same system in place and with a system that ensures that the body will be stored, preserved, and maintained for all that period. So if you think to 1,000 years, we go back now, we go back to before the America was discovered. That means
well, I'm not saying
completely different way of thinking, completely different society, completely different organization. And I must say that even if thinking that time frame, 50 years of experience of Alcor is pretty similar to 7 months of experience of another organization. It's almost nothing in comparison with that. Thinking for several generations ahead.
Okay, but first of all, I don't think 1,000 years is not realistic. I'm not with Jose, I don't think 2045 is that plausible. But I can't say how long it'll be, but I'd be surprised if it's much more than a century. So that's still a long time. I don't want to repeat the talk I gave to Dresden, though, which is on organizations that live more than 100 years. I have to actually write something on that. But there are. You go to the Vatican, go to my university, Oxford, it's been around for centuries. So there are organizations, usually non-commercial organizations, educational organizations, religious organizations, some political organizations have been around for a long time and quite stable. So that's kind of our model, and that's how we try to set things. As for the actual physical systems, the dewars we use are pretty durable. We do keep an eye on them because it is possible for the vacuum to fail. There's usually warning signs for that, increased boil off, frost, and so on. But they should last for decades. So yes, it is a big challenge. That's something to address. If it was 1,000 years, the odds would definitely go down, but it's hard for me to see it being much more than a century. And maybe the singularity folks are right. Maybe it's 30 years.
This was what was said in 65 or 66, more or less 1 century, and now is another century.
It could be just
50 years are gone and we are close to another
orders of
century.
magnitude. We don't know. But,
Yeah. I
Just do the best
agree.
we can.
We don't know.
Can I ask you to elaborate on a point that was made this morning about the neuro option and organ donation? But based on a brief conversation I had with you 2 years ago, I understand that if you are signed up for Cryonics, you are out of the organ donors registry, right? Even if you're a neuro patient. So I'd like to ask you, is there a fundamental scientific incompatibility between these two interventions according to you? Because if there isn't, I would argue there is a very strong case to try and pursue their reconciliation because of the number of people that we need to save who are dying unnecessarily from organ failure, and also because it would improve arguably the reputation and public image of Cryonics.
Well, first of all, hopefully it won't matter in 10 years. If Greg Fair and others figure out how to do organ vitrification, then you won't need so many donations that should be made much better use of. But I wouldn't say there's a fundamental scientific reason why they're incompatible, but in practice, even with a neuro patient, you don't cut the head off the first thing, or get the body off, I should say, that's the first thing. You're going to start by giving a whole bunch of different medications, like 16 or 17 different medications in the bloodstream, circulating that before you even think about doing neuroseparation. And those are compatible with organ donation, my best understanding. Now maybe you could, if you made that choice, you might limit the medication protocol to things that wouldn't be incompatible. I'm not sure what those would be. But generally it's seen as incompatible and certainly more risky, because if they're going to delay procedures to harvest organs, well, means if we get going with the cryonics process, there's a bit of a conflict there. So there's definitely a tension. It's not necessarily impossible to resolve with some compromises. But yeah, even for a neuro patient, that's an issue.
If you remove toxicity, would that eliminate the problem? Or
I suppose, I'm not sure you can. You have to go through a list of medications and see which ones are incompatible with organ donation. I don't know what the answer is to that specifically, so maybe I'm just assuming that too much, maybe it could be good to take them anyway, I'm not sure. Yeah,
you have seen the explosion of interest in cryonics in the last few years, and I think this is only going to increase exponentially because people will also begin to understand that we might achieve longevity extension, indefinite longevity. Efforts like Calico by Google, or now Mark Zuckerberg donating $3 billion. So we will realize we are like the last mortal generation or the first immortal generation. So this is going to proliferate. My point is because you talked about liars and fraud and maybe Osiris. In Spain already, we have in the last 2 years 2 frauds of people trying to solve cryonics. And then it was a few in Russia with Danila Medvedev. And he told me that also another Spanish group contacted him to try to learn something, to do something in Spain. And he even told me something worse, that even in Russia, they have competition from people who are just plainly lying. And I told you just now, one group in Spain says that they are representing you in Spain. And we were so totally surprised.
So was I. This is maybe another reason that's a kind of pan-European umbrella organization, because it could vet these different people who come along and give them the stamp of approval, having checked them out. That might be another function of such a thing. It's very worrying because we're very in a precarious situation still. We're still tiny, and if somebody does something really bad, like the old organization that fell apart in California, that caused huge problems for cryonics, and set it back for many years. So yeah, it seems like a little harsh, but you've got to be a little bit careful with these things. So that's another reason to keep communicating with each other. David.
Max, great talk, by the way, really good talk. I wanted to ask a question about a possible drawback of there being multiple cryonics organisations, including new ones, which is that it might cause people to delay signing up. And after all, I may wonder, should I sign up now with Alcor, or should I wait until the storage facilities in Switzerland and sign up there, or maybe storage facilities in Spain and sign up there? So do you have any views on that, or is there a possibility that there could be some kind of transferable membership that if somebody signs up now for one of these organizations and in 5 years' time decides it would be better to move elsewhere, that the membership could be transferred?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Well, first of all, there's nothing to stop someone changing organizations. People do. Some CI people go to Alcor, some Alcor go to CI. That may happen with European organizations. There are some viruses, I guess, in that, for instance, at Alcor, we've now introduced long-term member discounts, basically rewarding length of membership. Because you've been there for 20 years, 25 and 30, you get lower and lower dues until they're almost nothing. And I want to keep kind of pushing that back to maybe 10 years. So there's an incentive there. But the actual main funding is usually life insurance for most people, or it may be prepayment. That's also reversible. Prepaid account is in your name, we can give you that money back. When we do the life insurance policies, we have a buyback agreement. So basically, if like, it's $25 administrative fee, you get the life insurance back. So you could take that to another organization, just change the beneficiary, and you're done. So I agree that if you've got lots of choices, as in anything, it gets difficult to decide what to do, especially in something like this. But there's no huge barrier to changing organizations, really. But yeah, if you have a pan-European organization, that might help to harmonize that. Maybe some agreement within the organizations. Someone who's paid a lot of dues and was maybe getting discounts, can they maybe get discounts with a new organization credited in some way? It'd be difficult, but that might be feasible. Yeah.
Which is the decision process when it's about reviving people? Is there already something in place? Or?
No, not really. I've been spending quite a bit of time thinking about that end of things, actually. I think we need to do more, write more about that, think more about that, because people need to be reassured. They've got the impression right now, we revive them and say, welcome back, good luck, push them out the door. Well, that's not actually the plan. It's part of Alcor's mission statement, for instance, to help rehabilitate people and retrain them. But we need to look more along those lines. But as to who makes those decisions, what kind of rehabilitation integration they will get, who's actually going to even decide when to bring them back, we don't know. We can't guarantee it. And I have to tell people that they may think, okay, once I've signed up with Alcor or CI, they will decide when I come back. Well, we don't know that's the case, because right now, patients aren't even recognized as persons in the eyes of the law. They're biological tissue donations and essentially owned by the organization. Now, it may be, if people think that this could actually work in the future, suddenly the Cryonics organization doesn't have a say. There's some kind of government body or ethics committee, some kind of regulation, and they decide when people are brought back. So we can't answer those questions. What we can do is sort of try and devise standards. People in their individual contracts can specify. Again, we can't enforce that, as I have to tell people, but hopefully we'll be able to. So they can say, don't bring me back until you bring my spouse or my son. And we can say, we'll try, but we can't guarantee that. So I don't have a satisfying answer, except that we'll try to put things in place, try to have good decision mechanisms. That's quite a way off still. We know that we can start really worrying about that when we can start bringing back cats and dogs, and then humans might be coming up pretty soon. But yeah, there's no good answer to that right now.
So maybe there should be a documentation that goes with the patients, with last will
there is.
Medical records,
Yeah,
and
we
what
do
kind
that.
of disease should be curable when they are reanimated.
Yeah, no, we do that. We include CT scans, medical records, any that are provided to us, which is not always the case. The case report, any other documentation we have, that gets put into what we call the red books, which go in our fireproof folders, and that has all the documentation that will go with the patient. It's also digitized, and it's kept on the server, and a backup to the server, and in the cloud. So we've got basically four versions of it, and that will be available precisely for people to look at. Now, it may not be necessary, maybe after the singularity comes, everything we've done is kind of primitive, and so they have some super duper scanner that looks at them in great detail and tells you much more than we can tell them, but still, we think it's important to do our best to document things. We also have a box that people can get in an underground salt mine in Kansas. It's like kind of big. For digital storage, it's plenty of space, and you can get extra ones if you want. A lot of companies keep their corporate records there. It's very stable and dry. Anything you want, if you collect Captain America action figures, whatever, anything that matters to you, you can go in that box, and we'll put it there in the Kansas vault, and it'll stay there for a very long time. So we also do that.
No jewels are going.
Yeah, you can do that.
Jewels are going.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody does it. Yeah, you could. There might be a hedge against money not being worth anything, but I think jewels might be worth something.
You mentioned the 3% per year return that you're getting on the fund. What about the devaluation of currencies and so on? Are you putting things in precious metals or gold or cryptocurrencies or some other way of protecting against that?
I don't think we've really put anything into any kind of digital currencies right now. I don't think we have much in gold. We have a secret stash of gold for emergencies, but not really for the patient care trust fund. A lot of it's in very safe investments, and at least what most people consider safe investments, cash and short-term bonds and CDs. Those are the very stable components. Others are more aggressive growth, but we could move that pretty fast. It was clear that the US dollar was going to dramatically crash or something. We could move it to be valued in another currency, presumably. We haven't really felt the need for that right now, especially with interest rates being low and inflation low. But if we went back to something like the late 70s, or we became like Venezuela, for instance, then we'd probably shift the money to another country or denominate it in a different currency. So those are things definitely worth considering. And with Bitcoin and that kind of thing, I own 3 Bitcoin, just have a little stake in the game. I saw it go down, down, down after I bought it, and then it's been just about to where I bought it now, at 700 and something. It's been so unstable that we wouldn't put anything in that at this point, but I think in the future that might be more stable. In fact, it has become much more stable than it was. It's kind of a very boring range now. We get donations in Bitcoin. We had, this is kind of a Greek name, he gave us about $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 in Bitcoin. We sold it as soon as we got it because it was too uncertain where it would go. Yeah, I think that's a possibility for the future, to diversify, definitely.
When I signed up for Cryonics, I first looked at Alcor, but I eventually gave it up because it seemed difficult for Europeans to fund Cryonics expansion with life insurance. If I remember correctly, it was a requirement that one had to have a US life insurance, and
That's changed.
It's changed now.
Yeah, I said that's not
happening.
that's going to change. My understanding was that at the time, well, I think it's been around from around 2000. I'm not sure when it started and ended, but I think foreign membership was actually discouraged for a while. They felt it was just too difficult, and that was one of the requirements to make it easier. That's not the case anymore. So long as you have a good, solid insurance company, there's somebody here who introduced me who sells insurance in one European country, and we have another one in England. So we do accept policies from other countries. Now, actually, if you're coming to visit America, that's actually a good way to do it because it's in our currency. You don't have to worry about exchange rates changing, and you just set up a medical before you arrive. They come draw your blood sample, you get your American insurance. So that's not too difficult if you're actually visiting. But yes, we do accept other countries now. And I said, I'm from England, and I didn't like that. That kind of pissed me off. Why would it make it difficult for other people to sign up? So that's not the case anymore.
Before I come to the question, maybe point out Udo, who has been doing a great job with insurance for Germany. So it works. I think it's pretty started now pretty flawless. We've done it very many times for several people who signed up with Alcor. So it helps to have this one local insurance guy in the country who works with, I think, Diane, right? Or Maggie? Yeah. And then to have that sort of set up, and then it should run pretty smoothly. So the question I had, you mentioned, we saw Ben's presentation on new organizations in Australia and in China setting up. Obviously, quite a bit is happening in Europe as well. What is Alcor's view on that? Are you thinking of maybe setting up a new facility on the East Coast, or maybe in Europe or another country?
No, not right now. We still have plenty of room to grow in the current building, and it wouldn't really make economical sense to have a whole different building. Divide the building, have a whole separate set of staff, and duplicate things. At some point, that probably will make sense, but right now it doesn't really. It makes sense to have kits in lots of places, but not really to have another location. But we are working with a bunch of different groups. Maybe I can just expand on that a little bit because I have some experience with China too. Ben mentioned Yinfeng. Aaron is now working half the time. I was actually supposed to go to China a couple of weeks ago. There's way too much trouble this month to go to a different group in Ningxia province. There's a medical university there, quite a large one, and they sent 7 people to Alcor, the whole entourage, and was very serious. They wanted to start an organization there, and they invited me over. They set up an appointment with the president of the medical school, and I'll hopefully get back there fairly soon, maybe visit Yinfeng as well on the way. Those are just 2 of several groups in China that are very serious about this. That seems to be the most serious one, Yinfeng having actually started doing something. But what do you do with these groups? You have to be careful because you can spend a lot of time traveling, talking, negotiating, and it comes to nothing. I think Ben sort of hinted at some of the problems. With Yinfeng, we had a long meeting with them, 2 days of elaborate discussions and business card presentations and all this. And in the end, our attorneys who we consulted, I had a friend who works in Hong Kong, and he had a partner in Texas who was Chinese, so we brought them on board. And in the end, we had to say, look, we don't know what we can really do because there's no legal model for what we're doing. Basically, they can't charge money to do this. And so who was it was saying they probably can't do more than a few people before the government gets too annoyed? That seems to be the situation. So I'm not sure how workable that is. But each province has quite different rules. So the one in Ningxia might actually be workable. They have quite a different model, different sort of regulations. Even the declaration of death seems to be easier there. So, you know, Ralph Merkel, one of our directors, was saying, well, you should do a technology transfer. And then Brian Walk, another director who has experience with technology transfer, says, that's a lot more difficult than you think, Ralph. So they're having a kind of internal argument on that, especially with the Chinese. But yeah, we might be able to exchange like our newer design for that really nice cool-down box. But they've got a fantastic cool-down box in thing. But maybe more plausibly, what we need is resources. They have money, lots and lots of money, but not much expertise. We need money. If we got $100,000 from one of these people per year for using our name, for advice, you know, for being related to a 45-year-old company, we could hire another full-time technical, highly skilled person. If you do the same with another one, you know, give them a monopoly in their province, get a different monopoly in Ningxia, another 100,000. That's two really good people we could hire. That makes a big difference. So that's probably the best approach for us right now. And maybe technology transfer. We'll see. But yeah, with Australia, we just gave them our newer designs because we're happy to see them doing something there.
You said before you are then looking for patients, for new people to register to reach this goal of 1 million, 1,000, whatever, a lot of people registering Alcor. You have, but you don't want to be the facility outside. Are you thinking about Alcor has already a partnership program because in Spain we have a lot of people interested in to be cryopreserved, but the problem is that we don't have a way to explain them that they can do it right now. Do you have a partnership program already developed?
Well, not exactly. I mean, we know how we would do this. It would be fairly straightforward. We have to work out the exact contracts and so on. But the basic idea would be that locally you would do all the initial stages, the SST, the standby stabilization, transport. You get someone on dry ice after cryoprotecting them, and then ship them over to the States, and we would store them. And maybe there's some arrangement where you could always get them back, although it's a little difficult once they're in there, but it's possible. So yeah, I don't think that'd be terribly complicated. It'd just be a matter of getting some lawyers to look at the contracts and reaching an agreement. And if we have 1 million people, which I think shouldn't be too hard. I mean, it's crazy that we're so tiny. It's insane that we're so tiny right now. 1 million people sounds like a lot, but it shouldn't be. If we had that many, we would have storage facilities in many places like that. It wouldn't just be in one place. What would it take to get to 1 million people? We had a potential new director who is a fairly young fellow. He's from one of Peter Thiel's companies, and he's very bright. He was talking about what he'd like to see. He said, I want to see 1 million people signed up with Alcor during my term as a director. One of the existing directors is kind of very, very cautious and phlegmatic, saying, this guy really is young, if he thinks that's even possible. And I had to defend him a little bit. I said, look, that's not actually crazy. Let's say he thinks he's going to be here for 20 years as a director. What does that take? That takes about 30-some% a year growth. That's not insane. It's difficult, but it's not unprecedented. Alcor's grown faster than that. In 3 years of its history, at least, the late 80s, early 90s, we grew like 44% in 1 year. Yes, the absolute numbers were smaller, but look, we're a tiny fraction of the population. That's not implausible. If people's mindset changes, and they see this is plausible, the social embarrassment factor goes away because enough people know about it, they don't have to be embarrassed. Oh, I'm being reserved, don't hate me. If that goes away, that's actually a big factor. 30-some% a year is not unreasonable. In 20 years, that's 1 million people. And if there's several organizations growing like that, there's several million. So let's keep our stretch goals in front of us.
That reminds me of the cryo-procrastination topic you also had a talk about, I think, on YouTube. And I'm one of these terrible procrastinators. And it was maybe half a year ago or so that I thought, now I will do it, And then I went to the Alcor page and took the membership route in, I think, 3 months or so. Then you have to pay an additional fee.
That's the drug you're up. That's the drug you're incented to get it done. Yes.
And then I thought, oh, I have so much other things to do. I think maybe I don't make it in 3 months, and maybe I should do the upfront work first, and then when I've all done, I come back to the Alcor page and then do it, and to be sure that to make it in these 3 months,
Well, that 3 months doesn't include the insurance, so if the delay is getting the insurance, that's not going to be a problem. It's 3 months to do the paperwork, which you can do in 3 hours, frankly.
Okay.
People think, oh, I have to do all these forms, get witnesses. Really, don't have an excuse. We've had people come in and do it in 3 hours or less. You actually can. When we signed up, we did like 6 copies of everything by hand. It's nothing like that now. It's easier. We're trying to automate more of that. I'm trying to get it put online. We already have the application form online, but I want to have it automatically populate the contracts, so you'll just receive it right away, and then it's a matter of, the most difficult parts are getting witnesses, which if you go to Alcor is easy because we just bring people in. Some people are embarrassed to ask people to sign the Cryonics paperwork. And for one form, in most places you need to have a notary public, and it's not really that difficult. Like in the States, you go to Kinko's or something, and there's one there. But I'm sure you have that in most countries. I know there's one country I was at recently where that was kind of
That
difficult.
was one of the problems that we had, is that a notary public in the States is called and it's legally almost identical, but in the UK it's called a commissioner for oaths. And there are also notary publics that are very difficult to find. And so some people were having to go off to other towns to find one, and it was very difficult. And actually they could just find any solicitor. Most law offices have one. That was a difficulty. Now, if you look at stuff coming in from England, it will say, I don't know about Scotland, I don't probably have another name again, but it's the same thing. You just put your hand in the square and pay them £6 or something.
Yeah.
But that was one of the difficulties, just a tiny difference in name.
I think it's like flossing your teeth. Like, a lot of people don't floss their teeth because they think, oh, that's too much trouble. If we actually just do it, it's not that difficult. It may get even easier because there are people trying to start, and there's a lot of kind of opposition, people trying to start an online notary service. And right now it's kind of regulated between the states, so it's difficult to do nationally, but I think that's going to happen at some point, where you prove digital verification and they can do that. I mean, right now you can do your mortgage all online, all digital documents. Why can't we do this with this kind of thing? So I think we can make progress there, but really it's just not as difficult as people make it out to be. Just step by step, do the application, you can do that really fast, we'll pick out the contracts, just do one a day. And it's really just a few choices in each one, it doesn't take long. So,
but the life insurance stuff has to be translated officially, or
I would do the life insurance first. Just get that out of the way, because that can take a couple of months before they even approve you. But the paperwork part doesn't take long. So get the life insurance, and then maybe that'll give you incentive. You've got the financing in place. The paperwork can be done fast. One thing that would be really good with an organisation that's in a country or across Europe, have sign-up parties. We used to do this in California, where we had enough people together that someone, I want to sign up, but just never get around to it. Well, we're going to have a sign-up party. You and you want to sign up, come here. We're going to have witnesses on hand. We'll have some wine, some beer. It gets slow as you go along, but just make it fun. That's something you could do collaboratively.
Still, I would like to give you the feedback that there are people outside like me who have no problem with giving spending 1 year of fees in advance or so. That's no problem. So we just have fear that they don't have enough time to get all the stuff done or so. It's just maybe it's just a psychological problem, but it's all about psychological.
I volunteer to come over because we'll have a sign-up party.
My goodness. Thank you. Gary.
If you haven't done it by New Year, I'll come over.
Well, next time you do a conference here or any other country is planning a conference, set aside a little bit of time for a sign-up party.
In Madrid next year.
Bring wine and beer.
Maps in the digitization, there's services like DocuSign and EchoSign that can sign online. We use it all the time.
That's what we're actually implementing that right now. But yeah, the notary public is a bit more difficult. Use the camera and everything. It's actually just the regulations that's the problem. So DocuSign is something that we're looking at. Because again, the mortgages, I use DocuSign to do the mortgage. So you can use it for a mortgage, you can use it for that. Yeah. How are we doing for time? But we got it on the step one.
With the keynote, we are a little bit running, but coffee break will be shorter.
Okay.
I was just trying to suggest that if local organizations are forming in the countries, this might be one of the first reasons for existence for such a local organization, to make it easy for people to sign up at least with the established organizations like Alcor and Cryonics Institute, like Thorsten and Udo did for Germany. Because I benefited from the work that they did. They established a sample process for Germany. So 2 years ago, I was able to sign up with Alcor very easily. And that helped me a lot. But before trying to establish something locally, preservation or whatever, make sure you at least have a process that everybody can follow easily to sign up with the big organizations for those people who are interested, because that's the established thing.
Yeah, that could be very useful. Just general social
Should be the
support.
first step that you should target.
Yeah, and social support is very important too. So, apart from having the sign up, just having people around you that you meet with in you don't think this is a weird idea, that can be very helpful, especially if you're otherwise isolated. So. Well, listen, I don't want to step on other people's time. I'll be here the rest of the weekend, all day Sunday and into Monday, so I'll be happy to answer questions individually too.
Excellent.
There's no more.
Maybe last question?
Yeah, just Max, thank you for your presentation. Can you comment a little bit more on the science of the connectome protection, let's say, in the cryopreservation process? I was reading a little bit about this controversy with this ANC vitrification process, the McIntyre process, which was published, and the Ken Hayward discussion he had with you concerning, he was an Alcor member and then he withdrew somehow the support on that. Is there any kind of comment you can make on how the brain connectome is protected in this process?
Yeah, okay. With standard vitrification, we know that you're going to suffer a certain degree of chemical toxicity. Now, with M22 you get less than anything else, but there is still some there. You have to control the temperature. But it's not dissolving the synapses. We know again from the electron microscope studies, things can be very intact if you do it in good conditions. Everything is there. Ken's position to me is rather peculiar. He's saying it's, after years and years of being a member, he suddenly decides, oh, it's not right to be offering something that's so speculative and unproven. So instead he's offering something that's far more speculative and far more unproven, because what he's doing is he's putting chemical crosslinks throughout the entire brain, which basically makes this irreversible, except by incredibly advanced technology, more advanced than anything that we need for reversing cryopreservation. Because he's not really interested in reversing it biologically. He thinks he scan the brain and upload a copy of you. Well, that may be fine. I don't have a problem with that, but a lot of people do. A lot of people, that wouldn't be them. They think they've died and they've been replaced by a copy. I actually don't have that objection, but a lot of people do. But it is very difficult. When you cross-link all these molecules, you'll make it extremely hard to reverse the process. So, and one thing that he and some other people commented didn't even mention was that Robert McIntyre, who came up with this thing, did not recommend that we adopt that. He did not recommend it. He said, no, I don't think you should adopt this. It was a proof of principle that he was able to use these beautiful electron microscope graphs, amazing looking with no dehydration. The problem with what we do is not that it is actually damaging, it's that we can't get good images because it's too compressed, dehydrated, and it's hard to get enough light in there to get good images. You can sometimes do it, sometimes not. What's happening right now, especially at 21st century medicine, is quite exciting. They want to try and adopt some of the blood-brain barrier opening technology that Robert used to stop that dehydration, but without the cross-linking. Now, if we can do that, we can stop brain dehydration, still get good cryoprotection and vitrification, and be able to show these amazing images to people, which makes it very hard for them to say it's like scrambling an egg or unscrambling an egg, because obviously it's not. So it's more a difficulty of showing what we're doing successfully rather than being inferior. I don't think it really isn't.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? What sort of commitment is Alcor making concerning these particular procedures? So, given that the state of knowledge and scientific knowledge will evolve over the coming decades, predictably, if someone gets preserved, say now, according to the current procedures, and approves of those procedures, and is in the situation you described where they say, I want a reversible form of preservation, I don't want to be uploaded, and at some point in the future, like uploading becomes like the norm or the most popular thing. Is there like some sort of commitment that Alcor, for instance, would make that we will not provide this person with a different procedure than the one that they were expecting they would get, regardless of what becomes like the accepted standard?
It's a little bit tricky to answer. I mean, in general, yeah, we would follow their wishes. They certainly in case of uploading, I think that's a radical and deeply philosophical choice that we wouldn't override someone's wishes like that. But I've been asked that question a little bit in a different way, which makes it more tricky. What if somebody specified that they want to be brought back by a certain technology, a certain kind of molecular nanotechnology or something else? That would be kind of hard to agree to because you're basically ruling out anything that you haven't yet thought of that might be a lot better. I think you have to say if it has the same effects, then it's okay to do it. Uploading is not the same. It's a very different thing. We're getting rid of the substrate, replacing it with something very different, which in some people's view is death. So I wouldn't impose that on someone, even if I was quite confident with it, I wouldn't impose that on them. But yeah, I would very much discourage people from saying only use a specific form, Robert Fritta's designs for nanomedicine or something, because they may not work and they have to do something else, in which case you're never going to come back.
can you say you're making a philosophical commitment but not a scientific commitment?
Not a technical commitment, yeah. I mean, if they say only bring me back by using time travel to send me into the far future, we'll say, sorry, no, we can't really do that. Or send me to an alternate universe where they have better science or something. Say, no, I don't think we can do that. So we have to put our foot down somewhere, but follow their wishes as much as possible. It's hard to get just a black and white answer, really. It depends on the level of technology and assumptions.
Okay, let's give Max a hand.